Tracy Parker, and this is my husband, Darryl Parker.
Hello.
So I'm originally from Newfoundland in Canada. I lived there up until my mid-20s. Newfoundland is an island on the east coast of Canada, out in the North Atlantic. It's fairly remote-ish in some ways, in that it's not very populated, and all my family still live there, and all my extended family are pretty much on the island as well.
I live in Canberra, Australia. I've been here nearly my entire life. It's a great place to live, but I've also enjoyed a lot of travelling. I've travelled all around the world many times. One of those trips took me to Newfoundland, where I met Tracy. It's a rather convoluted story how Tracy and I actually met, because I'm in Australia, she was in Newfoundland. If you have a look at the globe, they're at opposite ends of the world.
I met Darryl unexpectedly one night. I was out with a friend of mine, and we decided to drop into the local pub for a beer. My brother happened to be there at the same time. When you live in a small place, you quite often run into family and friends when you're out and about. He said, "Oh, I've got someone I want you to meet. He's from Australia." And off he went into the crowd, and I looked at my friend and she looked at me, and we went, "Australia? Yeah, right." Like we just thought he was trying to play a joke on us. My brother with this guy, and they seemed, pretty cheery and happy, and Darryl sat down and opened his mouth and spoke, and we were like, "Oh yeah, he's from Australia." So Darryl, we're obviously enjoying our chat, and he basically said, "If I asked you out to dinner, would you go with me?" And I said, "I don't know, you haven't asked me yet." He said, "Oh, well, can I have your number?" And I said, "Well, I don't actually give my number out to strange men at bars."
So I said, "Here, have mine."
And he said, "I'll give you my number."
And a few days later, Tracy rang me up, and we arranged to meet. And it was a major storm, and we went to a pub, and we're the only people in there. I still remember what I had for the meal too: crumb chicken fingers.
Did you? I had surf and turf.
Yeah, I had surf and turf. Yeah. So we had a great time, and then we saw each other again for the next 2 weeks, and I had to leave, and I deferred my leaving for another week, and then another, but eventually I had to come back to Australia. I missed Tracy terribly.
We made a decision that it'd be nice to maybe get a card from each other every now and then and know that we're doing okay in life or something like that. But we decided that it wasn't we wouldn't sort of try to do a long distance relationship. He was going on with his travels, and he would be in Australia about another 2 weeks. In that 2 weeks, I think I wrote a letter to him every day. At the time, some of my friends had met Darryl in the time frame that we were together in Newfoundland. And when I contacted them and said that he called me, they were like, "Oh my God," And it's a lot of money I have no idea how much it would cost, but that's a lot for him to put forward, and not really knowing what it would all mean. And my friend looked at me and said, "Oh, but if the shoe was on the other foot, what would you do it?" And I said, "In a flash." And she said, "There you go. That's your answer."
So Tracy came to Australia. We went down the coast and stayed with my brother. We went up to Queensland, Stradbroke Island and Surfers Paradise. That was fabulous.
I'd never actually traveled, so it was a really big trip to come, and being young, to come to Australia on my own. I'm a pretty shy kind of person, and I was worried about everybody. I was worried about everybody at the airport. So I asked him if we could not have a big thing at the airport. I get off after a long haul and he's there, but so is his dad. His dad was not going to stay away. He wanted to meet this girl. On the last day, second last day actually, Darryl proposed. I guess he was expecting a yes because he had champagne on ice. And it was in the morning. We rang his parents and told them, and we were meeting his friends and work colleagues as a farewell as well, because I would be leaving the next day. When we showed up, we were happy to tell. We walk into the restaurant and they're all sitting at a big table, and we walk in and we go, "We're getting married," and they go, "Oh yeah, we kind of figured that."
My parents came over for the wedding, and it was really interesting because tradition there says the bride's family and friends are on the left, the groom's are on the right. So I looked, and there's this cathedral. One half is packed, and the other half has got my mum and dad by themselves.
Very unusual in Newfoundland to get married in the winter because of all the snow and the cold. So it was a little bit of a unique thing for all of my family. So it was a wedding, but in some ways it was a little bit of a farewell as well. About 2 weeks after the wedding, I would be coming back to migrate back to Australia to start my life here.
Mm.
My mom a couple of times sat me aside and she said, "Tracy, are you really sure about this?" She said, "You know, there's a lot of people involved and connected, and it affects everybody." Making sure I was looking after me, but she was also thinking about Darryl's parents and his family, and not being able to meet, and that it makes it a little harder. And I said, yes, most definitely. And she said, "I want to show you something." And she pulled out a letter that I had no idea she had, and it was a letter that you wrote to her and my dad. And it was a letter reassuring them that I was going to be looked after and treated well and nurtured and cared for. I was more along the lines thinking, oh, is this really what I want? I didn't think a little bit more bigger. I was only young and in love, and
Yeah.
and I was just gonna, chase him wherever.
Lucky I wasn't a quick runner. It was a very big family thing, as Tracy was just saying. And when I actually arrived in Newfoundland, that night there was a big family get-together for a silver wedding anniversary. And we turned up a little late. As we're approaching the venue, we could hear the racket come from inside. And then we walked through the door and the whole place went dead quiet, and everybody turned around and looked at me. Never felt so awkward in my whole life.
It was hard to leave all my family. The hardest I found at my age at that time was my nieces and nephews, who were very young. Just trying to explain to them that I was going to be going away and not really knowing if I was going to be back again. You just never know how life would allow that to happen. It was really heartbreaking to try and say farewells to them, because in some ways I felt like they were my children. They were my nieces and nephews, but I spent so much time with them.
I think we've been back about 15 or 16 times.
And just recently was our last time,
That was
pre-COVID. obviously.
2019, yeah.
Our children are mature now. Well, they are.
And we're more mature.
And we're more mature. um, they stayed here, and we went back to stay for as long as we could arrange at that time. And we stayed for about 10 months, and it was so nice to have that strong connection. Always connected to my family, but to be back in my hometown. My parents still live in the home that I was raised in. Even the neighbors that I grew up all still live in the same houses, and when I go back there, they're all out on the street to come and say hello and want me to come and have visit here and do this with them, and it's a very embracing feeling.
One thing I've always loved is when Tracy uses the word home, she doesn't mean this place, she means home over in Newfoundland. And just the word evokes for her so many different emotions and memories and that. And we've always tried to do that with our kids, to give them a very solid grounding so that they know they can always come back here. This will always be home to them.
From the moment I met him...
She won't have my children.
I did.
You did?
I have. We had a strong connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. That never changed.
Looking to the future, I've absolutely and thoroughly enjoyed my life and my marriage with Tracy, and I love the fact that we have two homes and two cultures, and we never want to lose sight of that.
So we've had many happy years, and there's been absolutely no regret.
I'd do it again. Yeah.
I would do it again,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah, because I love you.